Combat-focused action platformers are a dime a dozen these days, so it takes a bit to stand out. But there's a new one that tries to do just that called Skykeepers, now out on PlayStation 4. But does this game end up soaring to new heights? Or is this one game that the creators should have kept to themselves? In Skykeepers, you're playing as a village chief named Tengi, who is trying to avenge a family member, save his village, and just kind of get a grasp on his life in general. To do so, you take on missions, go into different areas in order to find different objects that you need, save villagers that have been kidnapped, and of course, defeat some epic bosses along the way. Skykeepers has a heavy focus on its combat, being able to string together multiple hits in a row followed by special maneuvers, teleporting to enemies while they're flying from a big uppercut-like move, and then going into another string of moves. You're able to get more moves as you advance through the game and even upgrade some of your abilities, but the limited amount of enemies that you'll be fighting, as you'll be fighting the same ones over and over again, it seems like every couple of steps you end up in another arena-like setting where you get to fight a group in order to unlock the next gate. It just ends up getting a bit monotonous pretty quickly. When you're not doing one of the seamlessly never-ending combat sequences against those same enemies, there is exploration and platforming to be had. You have the ability to teleport, which makes the platforming kind of fun. You'll basically have like these cubes floating in the air, and if one is nearby, you're able to instantly teleport. And there's a lot of times in the game through certain areas where you have to do a series of these, watching out for pits and spikes and other hazards while trying to do this. And honestly, that's where I ended up having the most fun when it came to Skykeepers. The areas you get to explore aren't just straight linear. There's usually side chambers or side paths for you to take where you'll be able to rescue more villagers or be able to find more of the items that you can then use for money back at the village, or just end up leading to a dead end against a series of enemies again. One cool aspect is the village itself. While there's nothing to explore there, you're able to select from one of 3 different buildings, and this is where you're able to get new maneuvers, craft items that you can then equip to increase different stats, or go to the shop and buy stuff like health potions. You can upgrade all of these buildings by rescuing the villagers in the other levels, as well as using the money that you're able to collect in order to do so. These allow you to do a gradual progression of upgrading your character, so you can't just earn a certain amount of money and then instantly upgrade all of the moves or buy all the stuff you want to right away. You will have to upgrade the buildings in order to get the better abilities and better items. The game is mission-based, including even side missions for you to complete as well. Basically, you'll go to the village or talk to somebody or whatever ends up advancing the plot, and then you go to the selected level that you're currently on and get to select which mission. You can even redo older missions in case you ended up missing treasure chests or missed villagers to save. Each of the missions will tell you what you're able to find during that mission, the amount of chests that are available, the amount of villagers that you're able to save, as well as what your overall goal is. Most of the time it's just getting to the end of it and finding whatever key item you need in order to keep going till eventually you make it to that world's particular boss. Some of the funner aspects for me, though, is when it came to rescuing the villagers. A lot of these rooms are these timed chambers. Basically, you'll pass something, a timer starts, and then you have to make your way all the way through, watching out for spikes, doing some tricky platforming in order to get to the end within the allotted amount of time to save a villager. Saving the villagers will, of course, add to your village, which allows you to do a lot of the upgrading. One of the issues, though, I have with Skykeepers is that there's only 3 worlds or 3 themed areas for you to go to, but there's a lot of missions here, which will take you a good amount of time since you will be fighting a lot of enemies over and over again. The problem is you're seeing basically the same levels repeatedly. They are a few different layouts to these particular levels as you're going through these missions, so it's not the same exact one, but they look pretty much indistinguishable from one another, so it's honestly boring to look at. I wish they would have either mixed it up so missions would take place in different worlds at different times, instead of just focusing mostly on one world, then moving on to the next world, and then on finally to the third world. When you finally make it past the first major boss of the game and make it to that second world, it is a breath of fresh air for sure, because finally you're seeing things a little bit different going on. Overall, the combat is fun in small bursts, especially being able to chain some good combos, and the boss fights are pretty intense, because usually you're dealing with the boss along with other enemies he spawns, and they can be rather challenging for sure, so you'll want to make sure you bring in some extra health potions to help you throughout. And the platforming is really enjoyable. I just wish there was more themed worlds, instead of having a lot of missions in one themed world. Spread it out a little bit more, and I think it would have ended up being a little bit funner of an experience. From the technical side of things, though, the game did run fine. It didn't run into any major glitching, crashing, or slowdown of any sort. Skykeepers is now available on the PlayStation 4 and unfortunately does not feature a full trophy list or a platinum. In the end, Skykeepers can be enjoyable, but I recommend playing it for small doses instead of trying to dive into it. Playing it for more than an hour or so at a time will probably just end up leading to that monotony setting in and end up getting bored, even with the relatively enjoyable combat. I also didn't like the fact that items that you ended up using didn't end up returning when you went back to a checkpoint. Like if you ended up dying during a boss fight and went back to the checkpoint, you still used all the items that you used on that last attempt. And this is the same in general. It felt like there really wasn't a penalty for dying in the game because when you ended up dying, anything you had already progressively beat as far as the different arena settings and all, didn't reset when you died. So you can complete one, make it to the next one, die, and that one you did first, it's still done. With everything said, though, I'm going to be giving Skykeepers a 5 out of 10. But anyway, guys, that's going to wrap up this review. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.